0 to 2 hours. When sleep drops this low, your brain changes jobs. It stops optimizing and starts cutting. Everything non-essential gets stripped so one thing can keep moving. You, forward. Attention snaps into a tunnel. Distractions don't get in. Doubt doesn't load. Tomorrow doesn't exist. There's one directive left. Deal with whatever is directly in front of you. That creates a very specific kind of usefulness. Checklists clear. Repetitive work gets crushed. Physical tasks get shoved through. Anything simple, obvious, and urgent benefits from this stripped-down state. Hesitation disappears, not because you're brave, but because deep thinking has been taken offline. This mode isn't smart, it's force. Adrenaline surges. Cortisol backs it up. They keep you alert and moving, but they also fake competence. You feel sharp, you feel decisive, you move fast. Everything feels urgent. The prefrontal cortex, the planner and filter, goes quiet. Long-term thinking drops out. That's why all-nighters work. Not brilliance, momentum. If you can grab one full sleep cycle, about 90 minutes, you get a real edge. Light and intermediate stages improve coordination, mood, and short-term memory compared to zero sleep. Waking up is cleaner too. Not refreshed, just less wrecked. Use this range only for unavoidable crises, missed flights, emergency deadlines, one-night chaos where done beats perfect. Hard limits apply. Big decisions get risky. Creativity dries up. Precision drops. Your threat system runs hot, so neutral things feel hostile. Driving and high-stakes conversations become a bad gamble. This is borrowed fuel. The interest is brutal. Use it deliberately, then recover hard, because the bill always shows up. 2 to 4 hours. You're not rested, but you are driven. Improvisation becomes your advantage here. Comfort gets stripped away and energy gets funneled straight into action. The brain stops asking how this feels and focuses on what needs to happen next. A small dose of REM sleep restores just enough emotional balance to keep you functional. You're less reactive than total deprivation. You can communicate without snapping. You can decide without freezing. You can push forward without spiraling. That alone makes this state feel productive instead of chaotic. Execution under pressure is the real strength. Attention locks onto what's urgent and concrete. Short tasks, clear instructions, repetitive actions. Your brain ignores background noise and shuts down debate. You act first and refine later. For deadlines, travel days, and crisis moments, that bias toward action is useful. Overthinking fades, doubt quiets, hesitation disappears because long-term consequences don't compete for bandwidth. Momentum builds fast. You move through checklists quickly. You finish tasks that stall when you're well-rested and overanalyzing every option. Memory operates like a whiteboard. Information stays long enough to be used, then gets wiped. Terrible for learning. Surprisingly effective for fast, disposable work that doesn't need to last beyond the moment. Emotion regulation stabilizes just enough to prevent meltdowns. You're focused, not calm. Sensitive, but not explosive. Socially, this favors brief, goal-oriented interactions. Small talk drains. Purpose works. Physically, stress hormones keep you alert and mobile. Energy comes in sharp bursts. Precision drops, but drive stays high. This favors output over finesse, motion over polish. The trade-off is biological. The body still reads this as threat. Recovery pauses, cravings rise, inflammation increases. Used strategically, this mode is a tool. Mistake it for a lifestyle, and the bill arrives later, quietly with interest. Works for short, high-pressure pushes, launch nights, early flights, one-off grinds, 4 to 6 hours. Dependability is the payoff. You can show up every day on time and hold your life together without constant collapse. That's the strength and the reason this range feels livable. Your brain gets enough deep sleep and REM to keep the system stable. Mood levels out, memory works, orientation returns. You wake up knowing where you are, what needs to happen, and how to move through the day without emotional whiplash. This schedule excels at routine execution. Habits stick. Repetition feels manageable. You can maintain schedules, meet expectations, and handle predictable workloads without burning out immediately. For structured environments, jobs with clear roles, fixed hours, and known demands, this range performs reliably. Consistency becomes your edge. You're less reactive, less distracted, and better at doing the same thing well over and over. Progress here is slow, but steady. That matters in real life more often than bursts of brilliance. Cognition tightens to conserve energy. You think efficiently, not expansively. Problem-solving favors proven methods. Creativity slows. Insight still happens. It just takes longer and requires more effort. Emotionally, regulation holds. You don't swing wildly. You don't melt down. Motivation isn't automatic, but it's accessible with discipline. Joy doesn't spike, yet stress rarely overwhelms you. Memory consolidation works, but shallowly. Facts stick, procedures stick, connections thin. Learning becomes mechanical instead of exploratory. Physically, recovery happens at a discount. You maintain health rather than building it. Muscles repair slowly. Hormones stabilize enough to function. This range keeps systems running. It supports maintenance, not momentum. And because it feels stable, it's easy to confuse working with optimal. 6 to 7 hours. This is where competence starts to feel natural again. You're no longer scraping by or conserving every ounce of energy. The system runs smoothly most days. Your brain completes full sleep cycles consistently. Deep sleep repairs tissue and resets core systems. REM handles emotional processing and memory integration. You wake up clear-headed. You can think, regulate yourself, and respond instead of react. The advantage here is dependable mental performance. Focus holds longer. Decision-making steadies. You can plan, prioritize, and adjust without friction. Errors drop because your brain has the bandwidth to catch them. 7 hours is where the research peaks. This is when cognitive decline actually slows measurably compared to shorter nights. This range supports responsibility-heavy work, projects with moving parts, social dynamics, leadership tasks. You can track multiple variables without feeling overloaded. Mental stamina improves enough to get through long days without falling apart at the end. Use it for 9-to-5 grinds, team leads, or multi-threaded ops where steady beats flashy. Emotionally, balance replaces volatility. Stress registers, but it doesn't hijack you. You're calm, measured, and predictable. In a good way. This makes collaboration easier and conflict less draining. Physically, recovery improves meaningfully. Workouts help. Sleep restores energy instead of just preventing collapse. Hormones normalize more fully. Inflammation drops. You feel capable, not just upright. The limitation is ceiling height. Creative bursts still require effort. Deep insight comes, but not effortlessly. You're strong in execution and coordination, not peak innovation. This range rewards structure, responsibility, and steady output. It feels close to optimal, and that closeness can make the remaining gap easy to miss. 7 to 9 hours. Noise drops out here. Not because life gets easier, but because your brain finally has margin. Nothing is screaming for attention. Nothing needs to be patched or propped up. With full, uninterrupted deep sleep and REM cycles, neural cleanup finishes properly. Metabolic waste clears from the brain. Hormones reset to baseline. Emotional processing actually completes instead of stopping halfway through. You wake up with spare capacity when spare capacity is what turns effort into leverage. The real advantage is flexibility. Focus holds when it matters, then releases cleanly. Task switching costs less. You can zoom in on details, then step back and see patterns without mental drag. Insight doesn't require forcing. It shows up because the system isn't overloaded. Learning accelerates in this range. Memory consolidates with context attached. Facts stick alongside meaning. New information connects to what you already know instead of sitting in isolation. Understanding deepens instead of flattening. Emotionally, regulation and range coexist. You're calm without being dull. Reactive without being volatile. Stress registers, but it doesn't hijack you. Social cues sharpen. Timing improves. Conversations feel easier because your brain isn't conserving energy. It has enough. Physically, recovery compounds. Muscle repair completes. Immune function strengthens. Inflammation drops toward baseline. Energy carries from morning to night without the late-day crash that shorter sleep schedules normalize. Workouts stack. Gains show up faster. This range supports complexity. Pressure, novelty, and ambiguity cost less. You adapt instead of resist. Growth becomes sustainable because the system isn't borrowing from tomorrow to survive today. Once you live here consistently, anything less starts to feel like running with invisible friction, and you finally notice what you'd been pushing through. 9 to 12 plus hours. This range isn't about productivity, it's about repair. When sleep stretches this long, your body isn't trying to make you sharper, it's trying to make you whole again. Your brain extends deep sleep and REM well past baseline needs. That usually happens after illness, intense training, emotional overload, or long-term sleep debt. The system is running a cleanup cycle. Neurons get more time to flush metabolic waste. Hormones rebalance. Stress chemistry finally quiets down. Cognitively, sharpness softens. Reaction time slows slightly. Focus feels wide instead of pointed. You're less driven to act and more inclined to observe. Motivation dips. Not because you're lazy, but because your brain is reducing stimulation to protect recovery. High urgency gets filtered out. Memory consolidation still works, but learning shifts tone. You integrate rather than acquire. Reflection replaces execution. This range supports emotional processing, long-term perspective, and identity-level thinking more than fast problem-solving. Emotionally, sensitivity increases. Feelings last longer. You notice subtleties you usually rush past. Empathy rises, so does introspection. That can feel calming or heavy, depending on context. You're not reactive, you're absorbent. Physically, this is peak repair time. Immune function strengthens. Tissue healing accelerates. Inflammation drops aggressively. Muscles, joints, and connective tissue get the attention they're usually denied. This is why people sleep longer when sick, injured, or burned out. The real advantage here is resilience restoration. This range rebuilds capacity after stress. It raises your floor, not your ceiling. You come back sturdier, not faster. Stay here occasionally and you recover. Stay here constantly and performance dulls. Long sleep tells the brain output isn't required. Conservation takes over. This mode is a tool, not a lifestyle. It repairs the system, then hands control back. Sleep isn't just rest, it's leverage. Learn what each range actually gives you, and exhaustion stops feeling random. Subscribe if you're tired of paying the cost without understanding the mechanism.